Hello everyone, thanks for coming along to meet the producers. I'm Danielle Fahiya. I'll be your host for this panel. I am a producer, I'm a presenter, I am an actor and I'm a writer, yeah, so do quite a lot actually. So that's me, and I'm currently developing my first feature at the moment, inspired by the last man hanged in Cardiff prison, Mahmoud Matan. Hands up if anyone's heard about Mahmoud Matan. No? Oh, a few of you, great. And I also produced a podcast called Matan, Injustice of a Hanged Man, which is still up on BBC Sounds, which will give you a bit of background on the case. So that's me.
Hello, I'm Red. I'm a producer, sometimes writer and director. I've recently had my micro short film in a lot of festivals across the country, and it's doing really well. But producing is my big love. I'm in post at the moment on some larger short films, and I'm hoping to keep the ball rolling with shorts. Yeah.
Fantastic.
I'm Griff, so I'm a writer-director. I'm also a musician, and I have my own very small production company as well, so I'm technically a producer, I guess. So I made the first film. If you watched any of the shorts, I made the first film, Dim Monti a Mi, so that was my first writing attempt, and yeah, I'm enjoying it at the moment. Getting to do a variation of work, so yeah.
I'm Tom. I'm an aspiring writer-director, and most of my on-set work has been as a first assistant director, but more often than not I produce short films and feature films. I've got 2 feature films in post-production at the moment, one that's just finished and is hopefully going to start its rounds this year, and like we're a very small production company based down in Cardiff called Broadside Films, and most of my films will be produced under that company.
Great, thanks everyone. So Red, if we can start with you, you said your big passion is producing. Tell me how you got into that.
I think it's a funny story because I never started out being like, this is exactly what I want to do. I started out thinking, I really love watching films, how do I get involved in that? I don't really like working with cameras, I'm like, what's the lens? But I'm like, okay, I'm quite logistical thinking, so over time people will come to me with their scripts and be like, I don't really know what I'm doing, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, let's try and work something together, I really like this story. And then I ended up just doing all the logistics and all the producing aspects basically, and I was like, I really love this. And from that I started out in the BFI Film Academy, and I did the BFI NFTS Craft Skills course, where I specialised as a producer. I worked with Rachel Roby and she was amazing. I learned most of the stuff I know from her. And then I did a course with Film Hub Midlands. I'm originally from Birmingham, but I also live in Wales. And I did a little short course with them with the Producers series, and I learned a lot from Lauren Parker and just a lot of Midlands filmmakers there. And that's sort of how it came to be. It was sort of a snowball effect. It was just like, I want to work in film, I don't know what I'm doing. Oh my god, I'm producing now. Okay, this is great, I love it. And it's just gone on and on since then. Yeah.
Fantastic. Because you've also, I know you've worked for Little Bird, so you work in both scripted and unscripted as well. Do you think it's important to, all of you, that this is a question for really, you are multi-skilled, filmmakers, musicians. Do you think it's important to also, build up a career in doing other things within the creative industries as well? And do you think that influences your producing? Griff, if you'd like to answer.
I think so. It's a balance, isn't it? Because you obviously want to be multi-skilled and you want to learn some camera work and some production and directing and editing. All of those skills are fantastic to have, but I've certainly also found that at some point you do need to kind of zone in on what you like to do, because even though there's a lot of work out there for multi-skilled people, I feel there's a lot of people out there that can do everything okay, whereas there's not many people out there who can do one thing really good. And I find myself sometimes, maybe as a director, needing a producer, and I can't find a producer because they want to do everything else, which is fine. I'm exactly the same. So I think there's a gap maybe in the market for producers who really want to go all in on producing. Same with editing as well. I think if you'd have gone back to the early noughties and maybe the 90s in Wales, we'd have so many editors, but now we have so little of them because the editors also have to shoot. I think it is a good thing, all in all, but if someone wants to go into that kind of area, I would definitely consider zoning in on one skill, if that makes sense at all.
Yeah, absolutely. But why do you think it's come about that people have adapted and had to do more than one thing? Tom?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting question. I guess, I don't know, I think maybe with the accessibility of kit, self-made filmmaking has become more possible. That's probably a large amount of it. So it's more possible to, I guess, be multi-skilled and try your hand at everything if you can get access to that editing software and camera. And I think maybe on more of the commercial side, clients probably look for that too. They're looking to package it together with one person more and more. They'd rather go with one videographer than trying to pay a whole team of people. Yeah.
I think you're right, and it depends what area you're in, isn't it? Maybe if you're trying to break in more into fiction and drama, then maybe what I said is a bit truer, but I think you're right. If you're doing more kind of commercial and client stuff, you do need to be able to turn your hand towards so many different skills then, don't you?
Yeah.
Red, you said earlier that you have been mentored. I think you've been mentored by BAFTA, BFI. How has that helped you as a producer?
It's been absolutely amazing. I wouldn't be here where I am without my mentors. I'm currently being mentored by Danielle through BAFTA, and that has been absolutely fantastic. She's just given me all the best amazing advice. I'm in post-production at the moment, and if I'm ever having like a little stress, I'm like, Danielle, please help. And it's been just really good to have, not like a shoulder to cry on, but just that support, knowing that I'm going in the right direction and doing the right thing. It's been really useful, yeah.
And has there been any sort of training, Griff, have you done any training in terms of producing?
To be honest with you, my journey into TV and film was a little bit weird. So I started out as a musician, and when I was in a band in my early 20s, I went on a lot of kind of Welsh language TV programmes, Bandit and Nodwedd, and there was lots of them around in kind of 2007, 2008. And I sort of slipped in through being the only one of the band who could actually answer questions and talk to the interviewer. I ended up going into some presenting. So then, from the presenting, I started to kind of see there's maybe that I would enjoy producing and researching. So it was kind of a natural and traditional way into it. So I didn't really have any training, but I guess through my work and through just kind of observing, I think that's probably one of the best ways of learning, is observing. And if you get paid to be around people who know what they're doing and you have time to just look at them do their job. So that's kind of how I ended up producing. And producing within kind of TV, it's a little lax because you have to do some researching, you have to do some producing, sometimes you have to do some directing. It's not quite like producing fiction where there's, that you have to be really honest with that specific kind of producing. So yeah, but I think training is definitely a good thing, but observing is just as good.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think like what you said about other things can merge. So presenting, when I presented my podcast, I ended up then producing it, so they can, they can merge. What are some misconceptions about producing, do you think, out there? Because some people just see it as sort of raising money for the film, budgeting, and see it in a sort of a more clerical, administrative way. But it can be a very creative process, can't it? Tom, would you like to answer that?
Yeah, I think that's interesting because I think loads of people can mean different things when they say producer as well. And I think the first time I suggested being producer, I wasn't necessarily sure what it was. And I think even within the industry, it can be one of the most vague job titles and can mean several different things. And you can have a list of 3 producers who've all done a very different job. So maybe that's one of the biggest misconceptions, is how much that role can actually differ. I myself have definitely lent towards the more creative side. That's the part that I enjoy the most. I'll tolerate paperwork, but I'll also avoid it as much as possible, and if I can pass that down to someone else, then I will. But I think creativity is twofold. I enjoy being involved with the writers and directors and developing that story, and then involved in creating that vision by bringing on the team and the cast and that kind of thing. And then, kind of like what Red said, there's a particular adrenaline in the creativity of the problem solving when that comes about.
Yeah, I don't know if you'd all agree, but I think producing non-fiction is a little bit more interesting because the production role asks for more creativity, whereas where you produce more of a music video where you work with a director that has a vision, your production role tends to be stricter and more of the paperwork and getting someone else's vision onto the screen, where with documentaries or any sort of TV that's non-fiction, you bounce back and forth with a team. Have you found that as well?
I've definitely found that. I think the lines have absolutely blurred in roles. I know for producers there tends to be like a creative producer who just likes to develop the projects, and there's like a more logistical producer who likes to problem solve, and then there's a fundraising producer just all about the money. I hope to be the full package. I'm not sure if I'm there yet, but that's what I want to be. But when I get a lot of people just sending me scripts, and I say, and sometimes they come up to me and they're like, "This script is done, it's ready," and I'm like, "I'll be the judge of that. So I'll help you develop if it's ready. I'll let you know." Because some people, I have been sent scripts and they're really not ready, but the writers are like, "It's perfect." I'm like, "Okay, I know you're maybe not ready to go forward with this, and maybe not this project." So I think it's like having that understanding of where you are at as a producer, how you can help directors and writers with their production if you're the right person to work on their film as well. Yeah.
I think you should aspire to be a producer for long enough so that you can be an executive producer and then you don't have to do anything. That's probably the goal.
Exactly.
Just picking up on that, you mentioned about directors. What would you say to directors who are approaching producers, how they go about that the best way?
I think the biggest thing is don't be like, "This is ready, go." Because I just get so many people doing that, like, "Okay, find the money now. Come on." I don't want that. I want to get to know you, and I want to get to know your project. I want to know why you want to make this project and what it means to you. I don't want to just be there to get the money, because it is really hard and it's a lot of work. So I want to be able to put that effort in if you're going to give me that effort as well.
You want to be involved in the creative process, really, don't you?
Absolutely.
Yeah, great. I know you're passionate about diverse storytelling. What do you think you can do as a producer to make sure that there is that diversity behind the screen and in front of the screen as a producer?
For me, I started off, my very first film was with Chapter, and they gave me a grant of £1,000 to make my very first short. And that was for a micro short comedy film. All the rest of the films I want to do are a bit more serious and more dramatised. So I was like, "Oh my god, how does this fit in with my slate? What am I going to do?" So I think as I've come up and learned, I want to give back to people, all the young filmmakers, all the diverse creatives who are really struggling to get into the industry. I want to give them the opportunity that I got from that fund. So every year now I'm trying to create a scheme. I called it the Community Comedies, but it's a work in progress, where we create a comedy micro short film and get people who are normally juniors or trainees to come in and step up to a HOD role, because a lot of this industry is about having something to show for yourself, and that's why I really struggled to first come into the industry, because I didn't have that until I got the chapter grant. So I want other creatives to have something they can be proud of. So I had How Could This Have Happened to Me? Last year I had Psychopath, and this year is called Would You Still Love Me If I Was a Worm?
Where did that title come from?
I think it was a meme on Twitter.
We all love a meme. What sort of key skills, Griff, do you think there are that you need to be a producer?
That's quite a tough one, really. I think communication skills is essential. Because you need to be able to listen to someone else's vision and communicate your opinion about that, and kind of navigate around other people, because you're not really, as a producer, working on your own. There's a lot of the time you're working either with a researcher or a director. It's fine if you're doing the production, everything as a one-man band, then you don't need the communication skills, I guess. But I would suggest that as a number one skill set. And you do have to be organised, obviously, to an extent. It depends again what type of producer you want to be. I think having an idea of how to split budgets is really good. If it's £2,000, £10,000 or £100,000, I mean, it's kind of getting that percentage in your head where you want to spend the money, how much money have you got, because you never got enough, doesn't matter how much you have. So I guess it's just kind of balancing in your head, how much money should go into art department, how much money should go here and that. So an idea of that is also really good to have.
You mentioned about learning on the job. How do people go about doing that? Because it's quite difficult, isn't it, at first, if you've never produced before and you're trying to break in?
It's really hard because not a lot of people can afford to just spend a whole year going on work experiences. I would suggest that doing that on the side is always, if you have a job that's flexible enough for you to take a week off here and there, so that you can just, start hassling people and ask them, can I just come on set, or can I come with you on that shoot? Doesn't matter how small or how big it is, just start kind of hassling people. If you can't afford to give it a whole month or 2 months, kind of zone it down, think, right, is there something happening on a weekend, can I just go? Just grab those time frames that you can afford to give, and then it takes time, I guess. I think I was lucky enough, because I ended up with some presenting, that I was around that all the time. There are also a lot of jobs in TV in Wales. If you're a Welsh speaker in North Wales, there's a lot of companies that would obviously take you on as a trainee. There are routes. I think it's about really thinking of what you want to do and what kind of experiences you want to get, and really just start hassling people.
I wanted to just hop on that, because that's some really great points. But like you mentioned earlier, I did have a traineeship with Little Bird, and that was amazing. So I think overall the film and television industry is quite classist, and it's really difficult for working class filmmakers to get into. And any minority really is quite difficult. So what I have to do, what I tell myself, is I sort of have my money job, and then I have my producer job, what I love. So I've never earned a penny from being a producer, but I'm at a lower stage in my career at the moment. So I go on traineeships to upskill, and I think I choose one specifically within the production office to try and help myself learn how the industry works that way, so that when I finish working on my shorts, I can be more prepared as working as a producer in the, higher up in the industry. But I would suggest to other people to try, maybe give traineeships a go, so you can try and earn as you learn. Because it's all well and good doing free work every now and then, but obviously at the end of the day you have to live. So I know for young people it might be okay working for free every now and then, but not everyone who's coming into the industry is young. Some people are old and have houses to pay for, rent and bills. So I think it's good having that job and then treat it as a learning experience as well. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a very, very good and important point. You know, the industry is still struggling in terms of representation, and if you're coming from a working class background, what other barriers do you think there are still around?
There are lots of barriers. It's sort of a sort of boys' club. It's sort of people who you know. So I've tried really hard to network and put my name out there so I can be in with the people who are in the know. Because if not all jobs go on the there are platforms where jobs get put out there, but not all jobs go on there. Sometimes it's like, hey mate, who do you know who's good? Oh, you know them? Okay, I'll hire them. So none of you guys would ever know about that because it's just, between us two. So that's a huge barrier, I think. It needs to be a lot more open. And as well, there tends to be quite a few traineeships out there. There's not a lot of programs or support in the industry of people who want to step up. So for my mini job, I've been a production assistant for quite a while, and I've been struggling to step up as a secretary or junior production coordinator. It's really difficult to make that leap. Those are barriers.
I think as much as we all love Wales, I'm sure, is a lot of barriers when you try and work from Wales as well. There's a lot of work in Wales, which, is amazing, but if you're trying to break out and maybe into London or Manchester or in general the UK, it's really tough. I found it really tough because, as you said, I don't have the connections. I've maybe started to have them over the years, and then there's a job here and there. So I think that's a massive struggle geographically when you're not in London, which is pathetic really in this day and age that geography is such a big part of it. But I guess it's something, if you're going into that industry, it's something you're going to have to learn really quickly, that's something you're going to deal with and just push through it and not be afraid to not work in London, because there's loads of stuff that you can do independently wherever you're from.
I think hopping off of that, as I said before, I'm from the Midlands. I actually came to Wales because of the jobs. Okay, so on a hopeful note, I think Wales could be coming up, but it is like there could be a couple major productions, maybe 2 or 3 major productions in a year, and then that's sort of it. And if you're not in the club, you're not in. You might have to go to London. But luckily, I had that chance.
I think what I've also found is a lot of big productions from London likes to come to Wales to film. I think Netflix, often they go up to North Wales and they go to Cardiff, and then they say, we're going to use local crew, and obviously they don't use local crew, they bring all their crew from London. So I think that's something that we could push to change, because it is a bit crazy that you'd bring a whole crew to maybe Gwynedd, and you have so many skillful people within that industry around who could do the job, but they don't know the executive producer, so they can't have that job. And I think there is definitely hope that will change. So yeah, challenges, but I think it's all pretty hopeful as well.
Yeah, definitely. And Tom, you started quite young, didn't you? I had a look on your website, and there's you and 2 other founding members. So you started as a teenager, didn't you, into making your own films? So have you always done that? And have you had did you ever have a job alongside it, or have you just been sort of, doing it from young and continued?
Pretty much, yeah. Very Son of Rambo-esque, if anyone's seen that film. I think that the luckiest thing that I had was a group of friends around me that also enjoyed making films, because it's such a team effort. So there was always that network to go out and make stuff. And then, it just, I don't know, I never really questioned it, and that's just what life was. And in terms of what led to producing, for me it was very much producing by necessity. Because if I wanted to make this film at that point, I was also writing and directing, then okay, no one else was going to do it, so I'll produce it. And I did art design A-level, and I specialised in film. The teachers had no idea what to do with me. I was very lucky that a contact of a contact, so talking of who you know, in a very roundabout way. My mum went to a pottery class and met someone who knew someone, so that's nothing you can really do with as a piece of advice, but yeah, he ended up kind of like tutoring me through that on a bi-weekly basis. Yeah, by the time I left A-levels, I went into more corporate work and videography and that kind of thing, and that's when I started getting set work up in Cardiff, just on a who you know basis from one contact to the next as an AD, and then also kind of spread into producing bit by bit.
Amazing. And you're all still working together, the founding members as well? That's fantastic.
Yes.
You haven't fallen out?
Most of us haven't. The ones that are here haven't.
Right, okay. Interesting.
But yeah, the three of us have stayed as a core, and we've met other filmmakers along the way who've joined along.
And how did you go about setting up your own production company?
So we weren't official for a very long time. We were just a group of people and a name. It wasn't until actually 2020 that we...
During the pandemic?
During the pandemic, yeah. Wow. A lot of time to apply for Companies House and do a lot of really exciting paperwork. But we did that as we were setting out with technically our second feature film. The first one we did was a little bit less official, but as we moved into our second feature, we got a bit more proper and set up a company for ourselves, Broadside, and then a separate company for the film itself. Yeah, not very exciting, that part.
And you co-produce within the company as well. I mean, how does that work for those who might be interested in collaborating together?
Yeah, I think I've learned a lot from that process with both of those feature films. When we took it on the first one there was 2 of us, 3 on the second one, and we just said, yeah, we're all producers, great, let's do this. I wouldn't recommend doing that. It's a bit messy.
Too many cooks in the kitchen.
Too many cooks. On the latter, we at least defined that I would be the lead producer unofficially, so that the buck stopped with me. But I think what we have since gone on to do on our other productions is just much more clearly map out those producer roles. We talked about the definition of producer, so we've just been much clearer from the get-go. This person is producer, this is line, this is PM, that kind of thing. Because in terms of accountability, in terms of disagreements, in terms of who should be taking on what workload, that kind of producer relationships that we were doing it just got a bit cluttered. And I think co-producing might only work if you have that clear communication between the two of you. Maybe one of you in that relationship is the creative producer, and the other one is more of the logistical producer or the financial producer, for example.
And Griff, have you ever co-produced as well?
Yes, I co-produced a short film for Channel 4's Random Acts a few years ago with a girl called Sophie Perrins, and she, I was technically the producer, but it was all her vision, and she was the director, but she comes from a production background, so we ended up kind of co-producing it. It wasn't really clear who was doing what, but I mean, it was one of those where you didn't have a lot of money and you just got stuck in. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of co-producing. I think I'd rather just produce something for someone. I produce a lot of stuff for maybe my sister. She's done a lot of animation films for the Wales Millennium Centre and stuff like that, and I don't have a clue about animation, so it's pretty clear what the roles are in that relationship then. You know, I'll produce it for you, I'll look after everything logistical and money-wise, you just make the film. So when the roles are that clear, I'm really happy to produce. I think because I'm more of a director, when I produce someone else directing, it can get a bit muddy because I tend to like chip in with creative stuff and they don't really want to know, and yeah, it can get a bit messy.
Right, how about you? Have you ever co-produced before, or is it something that you would consider?
Yeah, at the moment I am an executive producer on a short film called She'll Play On, and the whole reason I came on the project is because a lot of the filmmakers on board were from the BFI Film Academy, so I know they've had that training and they've got that level of understanding of making films. And I'm there as sort of a mentor for them, so if they have any questions for me, I'm always there, I can help them out. and I'm giving them that guidance around all levels, but also need to know when to step back when it's like, yes, okay, you're set on that thing, you go for it, it's a learning process. But I haven't co-produced per se, but I would be open to it. I think I prefer that relationship between myself and the director more, so we can have that understanding with each other. But that's just me. Yeah.
And are there any sort of support groups out there for producers? Is there any sort of support groups, any websites that people can join? Online community?
I'm not sure. I haven't come across anything in particular. I think it's just about kind of connecting with other producers that you know of and trying to share those experiences with them. I'm sure there is something on Reddit somewhere in the deep darkness of that website.
It would be nice if there was like a more official support network though, because I know there is a shortage of producers, so we do get like an overwhelming amount of people come to us saying we want to work with you, and it's like, I can only do one right now, I'm so sorry. But I know my mentor Danielle and some of her friends have set up a Excel spreadsheet. I know producers love our spreadsheets, but setting up that and shared it on social media and said that any producer can put on their details there so that we can all stay connected. I think hopefully that could go even further, maybe have group chats and stuff, because I know it can be difficult sometimes, and it would be nice to have that sort of level of advice and not be gatekeepy.
Do you know what? There is definitely a WhatsApp group, I've just remembered. I'm not on it, and I've only heard about this week because I was working on something and someone said, oh, did you see that on the production WhatsApp? I thought, what's this? There's about 800 or 900 people on this WhatsApp.
That's going to be buzzing all the time.
Yeah, so if anybody knows about this WhatsApp group, apparently it's out there. Apparently there's like 4. There's one for directing, one for producing, and one for like art departments and stuff. And it's all Welsh based, so there is a secret WhatsApp group out there somewhere, apparently.
And I mean, what's really important to you in terms of taking on a project? What are the kind of what inspires you, Tom, in taking on a project?
I think this kind of loops back to what Red was saying. I think you've got to care, right? And that's why you don't necessarily want someone to approach you with what they think is a completely ready project, and so you're looking for something that you can invest in that matches your values, the values of you as a producer, your production company, and a story that can get you excited. Some of our earlier projects, not named, but were ones that suited us from an experience point of view to get some experience in making something, and it was exciting for us when we started to get projects. And we could pick and choose a bit more and go, and then we want to do this one because we really like this one and we think that we can contribute to making this something really great. Especially for me, because I feel more, because I'd like to be more creative with stuff, that's what I'm looking for, something that I can invest in from a creative point of view.
Yeah, I think I tend to take kind of 2 different types of work on, like some production stuff that maybe it's not my vision, but maybe it pays the bills, and then there's my own vision that pays me no money, and I'm left with a hole in my pocket. So I think if you can get that balance of, you can't, not every job, I think you're going to absolutely love and put your soul into it and find that you've just made this amazing piece of art. And often enough, the ones that will pay the bills are not like that. But you can still enjoy them and make them. And then that might give you the time to you can afford to give time to stuff that you're really, really passionate about and you don't mind making less money or even making a loss on. It's a really hard balance to have. I've not been able to do it properly, but I'm still learning. But if you can strike that balance, then I think you're in for a fun time.
Yeah, I think I'm like both of you guys. So, like I said, I had my very first film that was a comedy that it just didn't fit in with all the rest of the things I wanted to make, and I was like, oh my god, what am I going to do? So that's why I set up that program. But everything else I want to create sort of focuses on diverse stories. So my upcoming film Glass House is about a multicultural family going through grief, and the film I'm executing on is about a young carer who's supporting her sister through her football journey whilst being from a working class background and trying to access that. So I like having stories that are diverse and show real people, but can also be fun. Like I watched Monkey Man recently. I was like, oh my god, if I made a feature, this is exactly what I want to make. So yeah, I'd love to make an action film as well. So it doesn't nothing has to be like serious drama. Like it can be fun and silly or like action packed. It just has to sort of hit certain themes for me, and be something I connect with.
And maybe that's something that writers and directors should look for when they're looking for a producer as well, right? Is a producer not just someone that will get them their money, but someone who's going to care as much as they do. Because I think one of the hardest things, in terms of like a balance to get right, is that writer or director will very often, that's their baby, that project. So they're going to give it their all, they're going to break their back for it. And it's in that relationship, it's often hard to kind of go, yeah, but it's not mine. It's not my baby. And there's a lot that you're asking for from me, especially at the more independent level when there isn't proper pay for that.
Yeah.
So yeah, what you should look for is someone who can get almost at least as excited as you, so that they can be giving it the same. If you want that kind of productive relationship.
Just picking up on what you were saying, Griff, about you don't have to love every producing job that you do, but you certainly learn from it. And what have you learned from the jobs that you haven't loved?
I think jobs, I think maybe I didn't say that exactly what I meant, is maybe you're not every job is your personal project. So for instance, I do a lot of work for the BBC doing sports item into live coverages. So you make the opener for a Wales versus England game. I love making them, but it is more of a job. I go into BBC for a week to do them, 9 till 5, and I don't stress about it after 5 p.m. When I say I do love it, but it's not it's not my own art, I guess is what I'm saying.
Because it can be emotionally draining, as in every single project being that passion project. It can take a lot out of you, so it must be quite nice then to go in and do a 9 to 5.
Exactly, I think...
Can't believe I'm saying that, but...
Yeah. And something that, because so much of my work is not paid, when you get that paid work, it's like, oh yeah, that's great, and you just go into the office and you do it, and you don't have to, pour yourself into it. So if you can grab onto those jobs for a few months a year, then it's good.
What's the big difference between producing for TV and producing for film?
I think the TV production, it asks you to do a little bit of everything. So you might have to be a camera operator one day and then come up with a script for a sports package the other day and that kind of thing. So it's a title, producer, but actually it's all hands on deck, get this item done. That's what I found that it is in TV. Whereas in film, I don't know what you think, but it's more make this vision happen. You don't have to do everything, but just make sure that this happens and make sure people get paid. Yeah, I don't know. Have you found that thing?
Yeah, I think it's exactly that. When I've worked in fiction, the roles are a lot more defined, and it's you do your job. Don't worry if someone else is going to do their job. But when I've worked in factual, there's PDs, so producer directors, the lines are blurred. They're going to be maybe in the edit, working closely with the researchers, scripting what interview questions they're going to ask. So I think definitely it's very different with both, yeah.
Have you found that with more commercial work as well?
I think to a degree, especially earlier on. Probably closer to the earlier days of like videographer stuff, which is in terms of needing that skill set we were talking about of the first range of things. Maybe it's more similar to that kind of TV style of producing.
And Tom, you've got a back catalogue of short films. How did you decide, and when did you decide to sort of make your own feature? At what stage did you feel that you had developed enough to make that jump?
Yeah, so I think my answer to most of these has just kind of happened. When we decided to move from all corporate stuff and put our energy into fiction films, and we did a bunch of short films, one of the contacts made on those short films was a first-time filmmaker looking to make their first feature with their own investment, which at the time was just 10k, and he approached us because he liked what we did with the short and said, shall we do this? And we said, yeah, sure, let's do it, with any actual money, because I think the most we'd spent on the short to that point was £500. So yeah, we said that just happened as an opportunity that came by, and then the project scaled up a little bit, and ended up being 60k with about 10k from crowdfunding. And then an actor on that feature asked us to produce a film that he was developing with a friend of his, and that's become our second feature, the one that we've just finished. Yeah, it just kind of happened. So I don't know whether we were ready or not, but we made sure we were. I think with the first one, I think because we were like, okay, this is it, this is the first one, we definitely over-planned. We had like plan Bs and Cs and disaster planned as much as possible. A large portion of the film was shot up on Snowdon, so there was a hell of a lot of things that could have gone wrong. And I think for us at that budget level, on both productions, if things went wrong, there was no coming back financially. There's no coming back for pickups or reshoots or whatever. The second feature in particular, Protein, was done under COVID measures, so that was terrifying for all the things that could have gone wrong. So I don't know. Yeah, I think we just over-planned as much as possible to. And the first one, for example, building in a couple of contingency days in case stuff went wrong, that kind of thing.
And Griff, have you moved into feature?
Not yet, no. So I'm trying to direct more fiction so that I can be ready for my feature. So obviously I've done my shorts, and I've done a lot of kind of second units directing on some Channel 5 dramas, and I also got a block of directing on an S4C drama this year. So I'm slowly kind of collecting that experience, and then eventually I think I'm going to have to wait until it pops that what I actually want to say and want to do. With this short, it was kind of a long time coming, and I knew what I wanted to say. I don't really want to force myself into writing at the moment, because I'm also trying to write music as well, and I think it's getting a little bit muddy. So I will eventually write a feature. I just have to wait to have something good to say, I think.
No pressure.
Yeah. Thanks.
It's been a great short, and it takes time. Red, how about you?
I think I absolutely would love to make a feature, but right now, I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, I'm just a baby. I need to work towards it. Me and my creative partner have come up with a short film that we want to make as a proof of concept for a TV show later on, and it's sort of it focuses around men's mental health, but it's sort of through the lens of a hitman story. So I feel like it gathers your interest there, thinking like, oh, it's going to be a sort of blokey bloke story set in the valleys, and then it really is about like what's lying underneath. And that's something I really would love to do here in Wales. But yeah, I've got loads of ideas I'd want to get going, but I'm like, I'm not ready. I'm the type of person who would only do something when I feel absolutely ready.
Yeah, you've got to have that confidence, haven't you, to see it all the way through.
Yeah, that trust in myself.
Yeah, because it can take even shorts. It can take a lot of your life, can't it? Really, and it sort of blends into your personal life as well, and it's difficult to separate the two. How do you keep that balance? Try to keep the balance.
It's really hard. I'm not very good at it. Because shorts is my life. I love it so much, and I've sort of tried to put my all into it this year. So I've tried to do less mini jobs and sort of just be very, very broke for a bit, and just do shorts so I can be like, this is exactly what I want to do. So maybe it's to try and fast track my way towards doing features, but I know it's still going to be a while. Yeah.
No, that's absolutely fine. I think that's a perfect time to actually take some questions from the audience. We have a little bit of time left, so just a show of hands, if anybody got a question for our fabulous panel.
Hello, my name's Chris. I would like to ask if you find yourself working with music supervisors, or is that a role that you would maybe take to do yourself, or is there a director usually suggesting a specific person who would take this task in their hand? Question.
I tend to work with just composers and let them do their thing, but that's usually because it's shorter projects, so you need less people. So if I had larger projects, I probably would have a music supervisor, just so we can have that overall cohesiveness in the project. But yeah, I tend to just work with composers, and the directors I tend to work with sort of have a vision of what sort of sounds they want, so they work quite closely, and I'm like, I'll let you guys do your thing. As long as you meet your deadlines, you're fine.
I actually composed the music for the short film myself, but I always love working with musicians. There's so many of them in Wales, so yeah, I'd definitely be up for working with new people, 100%.
I think likewise in terms of so far it's mainly been about budget level, and therefore teams are often just smaller, so it will often just be the composer along with the director, but yeah, with the right budget so that we can look after you for sure.
Great, thank you. Anybody else? At the back there.
When the three of you spoke about residential approach producers, you mentioned about the process of getting to know the producer, not just turning over the script and being like, can you do this? It's all about a process of getting to know each other. You want something that might potentially be a bit of a passion project for yourself, something you're interested in. Are you guys open to having discussions with upcoming filmmakers with certain projects they've got? Because myself, for instance, and I'm sure many others, we have some quite ambitious projects in mind, and there's no scripts written as such, it's more treatments. So with you saying you'd like to learn the process rather than just receiving the script, I'd love to sit down with the three of you and discuss these potential treatments we have and see if there's anything you'd like to get involved with. Is that something that you guys are open to if you're obviously free and you're not?
I mean, yeah. For me, I'm always open to receiving scripts. It's just whether the other person is willing to hear feedback is what I look for. Because I don't like when people just like, here you go there. But if you've got a certain project in mind that's sort of got some themes around it, maybe think about those themes, and then you can research some producers and see have a look at the work they've made before, see if you can spot the themes or if they've spoken about the type of things they like to produce, and think, okay, this person likes this, maybe they'll really like this and they'd like to come on board. But say myself, if you just wanted general feedback, like I'm always open.
Yeah, I'm not really a fiction producer, but I do like more kind of hired production work for kind of TV and stuff, and I direct my own stuff, so maybe I wouldn't be that much help to you, but I'm obviously open to having a chat, and if you've got any ideas, and co-working is something I love, so 100% I'd be well for hearing your ideas.
Yeah, for myself, I think what we've learned is just to be upfront about what we're able to take on in terms of timescales. That will often just be the first question I ask in terms of, if a project's come my way, what timescales are you looking for? When do you want to get this made? And then if that sits in line with what we've got on, what we're capable of doing, because it's way too easy to say yes to too much and let a lot of people down because you get excited. So I think, but generally, yeah, I try to make the time for a chat, because who knows what happens, who knows what connection there might be with another filmmaker, or if an idea really clicks your interest. So yeah, always have a chat.
Just hopping off from that, you made a great point about timings. I'd say if you've got a certain fund in mind that you want to apply for, don't wait until the fund is open to talk to the producers. I sort of made the mistake of putting out a tweet and being like, I think I'm ready for the BFI Film Fund. And then 80 people sent me their scripts and like, here you go. I'm like, oh, no. So I was just way too overwhelmed to... I read all of them, but I've been so overwhelmed with all of it that I haven't had a chance to even reply. The deadline's passed now, and I just wasn't ready. But if you were to approach me throughout the year and be like, there's something I'm thinking that I might be ready for the fund later on this year, do you want to think about that? That gives me a lot of time to think about it, and like we can develop that relationship and see if this is something I would actually like to go through with. Because say, for example, the BFI Film Fund is quite a lot of money, so I'd like to actually be very interested in the project to actually do it. I don't want to just be like, yeah, all right, gone. I want to be there to support the director, and basically I think producers are there to be the cheerleaders and support the director and make sure like, yes, you've got this, you can do this, I'm handling it, it's all okay. So yeah, that relationship, time for that relationship is great. Maybe stay aware, if you want to apply for a certain fund, maybe try and think of it in advance, so you have the time to develop the relationship, but yeah.
Thank you, everyone. Unfortunately, that's all we've got time for. I hope you've enjoyed today's panel on producing, and yeah, thank you so much. Enjoy your rest of your day.